My name's N'zi and I am a nurse living and working in the UK. I am doing this video for Mylocum, who's an organisation that I absolutely love. Today I want to discuss autism. Autism is a lifelong developmental condition that affects over 700,000 people in the UK. And autism can affect people in many different ways, from social, communication, sensory issues, and many other things. Autism can also cause children and adults to become very, very anxious. There's a misconception that autism only affects males. That is absolutely incorrect. Autism affects both males and females. The reason why I chose autism as a topic to discuss is because it's a topic that is very close to my heart. I am an autism advocate and I do a lot of research around the diagnostic process of autism within the UK. I started getting involved in autism because I have a son who was diagnosed with autism when he was 8, and as a Black African, it was very difficult to come across support that kind of met our needs. A study conducted in 2014 revealed that there's a lack of research with the Black and Asian and minority ethnic groups when it comes to autism. It found that there were challenges around the diagnosis of some people, and also there were barriers when it came to accessing support. So the research that I did kind of looked into whether or not there were support services available for people with autism, and absolutely, there were floodgates of services that were available within communities, locally and nationally, that support people with autism or families that have children with autism. However, the difficulty is that with the Black and Asian minority ethnic groups, there's a challenge when it comes to language. Most of these resources that are available are English resources. The support that's available is available mainly in English. There isn't a lot of leeway when it comes to support available in languages that people can understand. So, for example, some people speak French. There's not a great amount of support available within French or other languages such as Farsi or Urdu. So, with that being said, it shows that there is a big problem when it comes to autism and the Black and Asian minority ethnic groups. So some of the research that I am currently involved in looks to see what the experiences are for people receiving diagnosis, but not only receiving diagnosis, but aftercare. So what happens after you get a diagnosis of autism? And as a mum, as a Black mum to a child with autism, I can tell you now firsthand, it has been painfully difficult to get support. And not because I don't speak English, because clearly I speak English, and I'm educated to the point where I can get resources. The difficulty that I've been having is getting the most appropriate support. So with my son, he received an autism diagnosis, but they suspect ADHD too. So with the suspicion of ADHD, when he has challenging behavior that kind of falls more in line with ADHD, it's more complicated because he doesn't meet the criteria for receiving support with certain autism charities or organizations, because his behavior doesn't really meet the threshold of what they would deem acceptable, which then puts me back in the wheel of going to either the school or going to the GP surgery. And again, that's another barrier because GPs are not trained to deal with learning difficulties. They're not trained to deal with a lot of things surrounding autism or even stuff like ADHD. So when as a mum, I raise concern regarding these things, I'm not always directed in the right direction, and I'm not always signposted to where the most appropriate care for my son would be. So it then means that I have to go and knock down some walls and bang on some doors and kind of be the loudest voice in the room in order to get support, which shouldn't be the case, really. And I found that even though there's a lot of support groups available out there, I haven't yet found a support group that's available for Black and Asian minority ethnic groups. It's mainly community based, and it's mainly, mostly white British based groups, which again, as a Black mum, I'm more than happy to attend, but there's certain issues around culture that, people may not understand. And so it becomes a thing of, where do we get those services? And also, how can we be part of the conversation in a way that we then bring forth concerns that affect Black and Asian ethnic groups. And one of the advice that I was given was speaking to my local MP and speaking to, my Prime Minister, writing a letter and just expressing some of the concerns that I have as a mum, but also raising awareness of autism within the community, and so to encourage more Black and Asian minority ethnic group parents to come out and share their story, or to come out and create a group, a safe space to support one another when it comes to certain things. Certainly, I think there's a vast load of resources that are out there and available. And the question then is, how do we make those resources available to all different types of people? Is it a thing of getting translated documents, or making our websites multilingual, so that if someone is seeking information, they can then also change the language of the website into a language that they are familiar with? Or there's a lot of questions that are raised within this topic, but I think the main thing to understand is that everyone experiences things differently. The key thing is to bring awareness to these issues so something can be done about it. And I think as healthcare professionals, being a nurse, I'm an adult nurse, so I don't tend to deal with learning difficulties or even mental health at that, to that extent. And so as healthcare professionals, we have to educate ourselves about the world around us. We have to make sure that we keep up to date with policies around, things like autism, learning disability, mental health. It's a very important thing that we have to start combating. Creating awareness for issues like autism is really important for our community, especially as healthcare professionals. It helps us to be more widened in our knowledge and our understanding of our health and the community of health around us.
And today I'm going to talk with you about mental health. So I was diagnosed with postnatal depression in 2013 when I was still in my 20s and a young mom to my first son. Now around that time, I had absolutely no clue that I was struggling with my main symptoms were low mood, being really tearful, lack of concentration, and I also suffered from temper issues, so I'd lose my calm over the slightest thing.